usually when you think about hard sci-fi, you probably picture cold steel, like dense physics, intimidating control panels, and characters who speak entirely in technical jargon.
Yeah, it often feels like you're reading a very dramatic instruction manual.
Exactly.
Right.
But what if a director took all that complex machinery, the giant robots or the space pirate uniforms,
Yeah.
and just used it as a Trojan horse?
Right, smuggling in these profound, character-driven masterpieces.
Yeah, masterpieces that honestly changed the entire medium. Today, we are taking a deep dive into the legacy of anime visionary Tatsuo Sato, who passed away on April 24th, 2026, at age 61 from liver failure.
It's just a profound loss, but when you look back at his career, his overarching mission is just so clear. He was all about transforming that dense tech jargon into stories about relatable, deeply flawed humans.
Really see how he pulled that off? I mean, you have to look at what he was rebelling against in the mid-90s.
Oh, absolutely, because the landscape back then was completely dominated by Neon Genesis Evangelion.
Right, which was massive.
Yeah, and that show took mecha anime, stories centered around piloting giant mechanical robots and made the whole genre incredibly dark, angsty, and highly psychological.
And Sato looked at that trend and responded by directing Martian's successor, Nadesico.
Oh.
But instead of going darker, he goes totally meta.
He really does.
He creates this space opera, right?
Yeah.
But he gives the characters a fictional, cheesy 70s superhero show called Geiki Ganger 3 to watch.
Yeah, they literally sit around critiquing the exact same tropes of the genre they are currently living in.
It's brilliant.
And we can't forget that he also gave us Ruri Hoshino. She basically popularized the deadpan archetype in anime.
Oh, the classic hyper-competent sidekick.
Exactly. The emotionally flat character who just famously looks at her bumbling crew and calls them idiots.
But wait, let me push back a bit here.
Yeah.
If your space opera leans that heavily into comedy and parody, aren't you kind of undercutting the danger?
How so?
Well, like if the characters are constantly cracking jokes about old cartoons, why should you feel any actual tension when the lasers start firing?
Ah, see, that is the core of Sato's brilliance right there. It is essentially an emotional ambush.
An emotional ambush. I like that.
Yeah, because when you have a cast of misfits making you laugh, your guard goes down. You start treating them like real friends.
Right, you get attached.
Exactly. So when the casualties of war finally happen, it doesn't just feel like anonymous soldiers dying in cold steel machines.
It hits harder.
Right.
Well,
it feels like you're watching people you actually care about suffer. The comedy is literally the mechanism that makes the tragedy devastating.
Wow. Okay. So the comedy isn't just for laughs, it's a trap. But if his whole brand was making fun of the cynical 90s, how did he survive the 2000s when those specific tropes sort of faded out?
By proving his focus on character could anchor totally different genres. So instead of just doing more cynical satire, he directed Stelvia of the Universe in 2003.
Which is a much brighter tone, right?
Yeah, it offered a genuinely hopeful vision of humanity working together in space.
And then you get Bodacious Space Pirates, which, I mean, this sounds like a silly costume show, but it actually tackles legal privateering.
Basically government-sanctioned space piracy.
Exactly, and it turns into this intense look at space-age bureaucracy, which sounds incredibly dry on paper.
Oh, sure.
But he handles it like a high school club, desperately trying to manage international political treaties. He takes these intimidating mechanics and just makes them highly entertaining for you to watch.
And because he established that massive trust by making complex space operas accessible, studios gave him the freedom to push boundaries elsewhere. That is how we get a project like Cat Soup.
Oh, wow, yeah. He co-crafted that with Masaki Yuasa, right?
He did. And that one abandons the spaceships entirely. It is a dark, surreal fever dream.
But the surrealism isn't just weird for the sake of being weird.
No, not at all. It uses dream logic and disturbing imagery to visually represent the disorienting, visceral experience of grief, specifically losing a sibling.
That's incredibly heavy.
It is. And he later applied a similar mechanical focus to Shigofumi. The premise there involves delivering letters from the recently deceased to the living.
Oh, man. That works so well because Sato forces the audience to confront why people leave things unsaid.
Exactly. He uses a supernatural premise to examine very real human regret.
Well, according to Studio Nagonimai, Sato was actively working until the very end.
Yeah, he never stopped.
And his real legacy was making the vast, terrifying universe feel like a place worth exploring, mostly because it's populated by people brave enough to be a little bit foolish.
He truly never lost sight of the humanity inside the machine.
Absolutely. So I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today. Take a look at your favorite modern media.
Mm-hmm.
Think about how much of it relies on a meta show within a show, or a hyper-competent, deadpan sidekick rolling their eyes.
Yeah, it's everywhere now.
Right. The next time you see a cynical trope cleverly flipped on its head to make you actually care about a character, ask yourself if Tatsuo Sato's influence is quietly piloting the ship.